Trust me, I'm poor. I've been poor my whole life, basically. There's a time when my stepmother had some money, but I didn't have that money, and I didn't really have access to it. I don't want to climb up into the middle class. I had the ladder. That's what I'm talking about. I knocked it over. It's just less freedom and more stress. You have money to spend on things, but you have to throw away your life in order to get it. I'm basically saying the same thing that Buddhists have been saying for a long time. It's not true, really. My views are very different. My views are more in the existentialist kind of side of things, right? But I mean, it's not a new, sort of realization that, capitalist society doesn't really make a lot of people happy, right? If you look at the society, I mean, they've done all kinds of studies on this, right? It doesn't make you happy. Money doesn't make you happy. Competition doesn't make you happy. Winning doesn't make you happy. What makes you happy is stability and security, right? I'm telling you this, but and I can cite, religious people, I can cite philosophers, I can cite psychologists. I know it's not what the society tells you, but it's backed up by a lot of different sources, right? You want to ask a psychologist, they'll tell you that somebody on social assistance is more likely to be happy than somebody that runs a multinational company. And I mean, and you need to make that choice, right? Do you want to focus on your individual happiness, on what makes you happy as a person, as an individual? Or do you want to, put your happiness on, social expectations and, measure your worth by other people's opinions of you? What I want is a way to escape market forces, which means subsidized housing. It means a guaranteed annual income. And if you really care about inequality, that's what your focus needs to be on. Not in pretending that you can generate wealth through job creation. That doesn't work. Everybody knows that doesn't work. And we can talk about the pros and cons of markets if you'd like. I've had the argument frequently enough. I know the talking points, and I have my own. But whatever the benefits and drawbacks of a market system, you need to have a population that wants to live under a market system before you can talk about those pros and cons. And that's what's never really existed. There may have been a small period of time right out of, as feudalism was collapsing, where you had, free farmers, when land, in the very brief era of land reform, where farmers owned their land and were able to bring a product to market. And then you had slavery after that. And talk about a market system when, I mean, I suppose you can talk about it, but it's not meaningful. But I mean, maybe it would in theory, right? If we all had some way to enthusiastically participate in bringing a product to market. I mean, that's what Marx said, right? Maybe it would be great. I don't discount this possibility, right? And I don't begrudge people that have found some way to, fulfill themselves. Even as I argue that that's maybe illusory. That the idea that you can fulfill yourself within capitalism is an illusion, right? But I mean, abstractly, okay. As a utopian ideal, markets as a utopian ideal, I can kind of abstract it, right? The thing is that it's a huge contradiction in a society full of artists and scientists and writers that live in concentrated urban areas and don't have the slightest interest in market participation. It's about the interest in participating in the market, right? When you have an educated society like we have, the obligation to sell a product is not a means of wealth generation, but a burden to placate the rentier class. I don't wake up every day thinking, I'm going to create a product and sell it on a market. I wake up every day, or I don't anymore, but I did, and I'm still very traumatized by it. I did wake up every day thinking, I have to create a product to sell on a market to pay the rentier class. That's not freedom. There's no way to become free by participating in this. Freedom is trying to find a way out of this obligation, this onerous burden. And so the state's role needs to be in providing avenues for escape, not in leveling playing fields for broader participation and fairer competition. Okay, and that's why neoliberals are wrong. Everything's based on incentives to get people to participate. And what they don't realize is that people don't want this. And so they can create all the incentives in the world. It's a system that nobody wants. But if people did want it, maybe it might. That's the utopian side. That's the abstraction. But it's doomed because nobody wants this. And it's just a matter of time before the elite clues in. Now there's two possible responses, right? They may clue in and say, okay, nobody wants a market system, so let's abandon it in favor of something more egalitarian. Something that people actually want, right? Instead of a system of markets and scarcity and supply and demand, we could have a system of security, right? And surplus and so we're looking at there's a term I'm looking for. I'm hungry. That's why I can't find it. I don't want to say excess because that's not the word I'm looking for. There's a specific technical word I want. Plenty, right? Or the elite could also crack down and bring us back into feudalism. This is the perilous fence that we sit on, right? The historical materialists are wrong. There's nothing inevitable about the evolution of capitalism into socialism. We very well may move backwards. We are constantly in great peril of a return to feudalism, which is as likely as a movement forward into socialism, right? But you can cut the rates all you want, man. You can hand me free startup money, you can give me your business. I don't want it. That's not how I want to live. My enjoyment of life is more important than my place in a hierarchy. So, we can agree that educated people react poorly to market economies, for the reasons I've just explained. That's why we're all leftists. But that doesn't mean that shutting down the academies like Justinian did is going to lead to a rejuvenation of Calvinism. It will just lead to an increase in crime, and ultimately to accelerating decline. When will you learn that people do not want this? That Homo economist is wrong. And in the end, the academics are not going to flee to the Arabs, but they might come up here to Canada. I've spoken of Trump with Justinian more than once. I think it's a proper comparison. And if Trump is only half the fuck up that he is, then you're still in for a rough, bumpy, nasty decline. A bankrupt, fundamentalist, overexpanded, totalitarian despotism. Thankfully, Trump has it most 8 years, or we hope so anyways. He'll be 78 in 8 years. You can't do too much harm. I would expect this. Even if he does not shut down the academies, then you're going to see a transfer of resources away from the sciences, from the exploratory topics, and more money put into educational institutions that are somewhat like Trump University, that focus on business. That's when you know that your society is on the brink of collapse. When your academic institutions stop teaching inquiry and philosophy and science and start teaching people how to get ahead in the market, how to maximize their investments. That's the end. That's when it's over.